In California, there is a lake that does not just look ancient, it looks alive. Because from its water, stone towers rise like something growing from the earth itself. This is Mono Lake in eastern California, a place shaped by silence, salt, and time. It has existed for at least 760,000 years, and unlike most lakes, it has no outlet. Water flows in, but it never flows out to the sea. It only disappears into the sky. And over thousands of years, that simple fact transformed this lake into something harsh, mineral-heavy, and deeply strange. Most lakes erode, flood, or slowly fade into the landscape. Mono Lake did something else. Beneath its surface, freshwater springs pushed upward through dense alkaline water, and stone began to form in the dark. Slowly, silently, tower by tower, the lake built its own monuments, hidden underwater for centuries before the falling shoreline exposed them to the air. They are called Tufa towers. But standing in front of them does not feel scientific at first. It feels like discovering the remains of a world that was never meant to be seen. At first glance, Mono Lake looks abandoned. The shoreline is pale, the water is unnaturally still, and the towers rising from the lake look less like rock formations and more like warnings left behind by another age. But this place is not dead. It is chemically alive, geologically strange, and biologically extreme. Because Mono Lake traps everything time carries into it. Minerals wash down from the Sierra Nevada, enter the basin, and stay there. Century after century, evaporation thickened the water into a hostile alkaline brew where most fish cannot survive. And yet, life adapted. Brine shrimp multiplied here by the trillions. Alkali flies covered the edges of the lake in living masses. And above them, millions of birds learned to depend on a place that looks to human eyes almost impossible. That is what makes Mono Lake so disturbing. It looks empty, but it is full. It looks dead, but it is alive in ways most lakes could never endure. This is one of the oldest lakes in North America, and for hundreds of thousands of years, it has held together an ecosystem that seems too extreme to survive. And then there are the towers. These stone formations were created underwater when calcium-rich freshwater springs rose through the lake bed and mixed with carbonate-heavy lake water. As those two waters met, calcium carbonate began to form around the spring vents. Very slowly, those mineral deposits built upward, not in days, not in years, but across spans of time too long for a human eye to ever witness. What now looks like a lake-growing stone towers is really the exposed result of an invisible chemical process that once happened beneath the surface in total silence. That alone is one of the most mind-blowing facts about Mono Lake. These towers were not carved by wind in the usual way. They were not shaped like ordinary cliffs or canyon walls. They formed underwater, in darkness, around hidden freshwater springs. Another astonishing fact is that the lake is so salty and alkaline that fish cannot survive in it. Yet it still supports overwhelming numbers of life. Another is that millions of migratory birds depend on this place. And maybe the strangest fact of all is this: Mono Lake helps scientists imagine how life could survive in extreme environments far beyond Earth. Because Mono Lake is not just visually strange, it is scientifically powerful. The organisms that survive here are adapted to conditions that would destroy most familiar species. Researchers study environments like Mono Lake to better understand resilience, adaptation, and the boundaries of life itself. When scientists ask how life might survive in alien oceans, toxic waters, or chemically hostile worlds, they often start by studying extreme places here on Earth first. And Mono Lake belongs in that conversation. But for all its ancient power, this lake was nearly transformed by something much newer and far more familiar: human demand. Mono Lake's strongest impact on modern life is not just its strange appearance, but what it warns us about. This lake became a powerful example of how human water decisions can damage an ancient ecosystem in a very short time. It showed that when rivers are diverted and lake levels fall, the consequences do not stay local. Air quality can worsen, bird migration routes can be disrupted, fragile food chains can begin to collapse, and a landscape that survived for hundreds of thousands of years can suddenly become vulnerable. That is why Mono Lake still matters today. It is not just a geological wonder. It is a modern warning about water management, environmental balance, and how easily people can push a rare natural system toward crisis. Beginning in the 20th century, water that would normally flow into the lake was diverted south toward Los Angeles. As more water was taken away, the lake level began to fall. At first, that might not sound dramatic, but for Mono Lake, it changed everything. As the water dropped, salinity increased, habitat conditions worsened, and the balance of the lake was pushed toward crisis. Large sections of lake bed were exposed to the air. And when the wind swept across that dry surface, it lifted fine alkaline dust into the atmosphere, turning a shrinking shoreline into a serious environmental threat. And this is where Mono Lake becomes more than a mystery. Because when you look at the Tufa towers, you are seeing two truths at once. You are seeing a natural wonder, but you are also seeing what happens when a lake is forced to retreat. So the question is this: are these towers a miracle being revealed, or the bones of a landscape being drained? That is what gives Mono Lake its eerie power. Its beauty is real, but part of what we see today is tied to stress, exposure, and loss. The lower water level made many towers easier to see, but it also revealed how vulnerable this ancient ecosystem truly is. Mono Lake became a symbol of environmental protection because people realized something terrifying. A place can survive for hundreds of thousands of years and still be damaged within a single human lifetime. And maybe that is why it lingers in the mind. The towers do not look accidental. They rise from the water like the remains of something unfinished, something the Earth started building and never fully explained. If this place fascinated you, subscribe to Off the Map and like this video for more landscapes that feel impossible until you look closer. And if you think Mono Lake is strange, wait until the next video. Bonneville Salt Flats, Utah. Why is this place a perfect mirror?